Welcome, huge movie fanatic Nate, stopping on by. This time I'm coming your way to review the motion picture that I'm pretty sure came out this year by the name of A Most Atrocious Thing. So this movie first crossed my radar, I think it was months ago. I probably saw a listing for it on Blu-ray.com, and at the time, probably months ago, I did check out the trailer, but I thought it was a little goofy for me, so I didn't really think much more about it. But then recently on Blu-ray.com, it was like the price had been reduced of the Blu-ray to like $13 or something, and I'm like, maybe I should check this out. Maybe it'd be something I liked, like Deer Camp 86 and In a Violent Nature, two movies from this year that I actually like quite a bit. I love In a Violent Nature, and I like pretty much, a good amount Deer Camp 86, and I thought, well, maybe this could be like another one of those movies where it's just like 2024, go in the woods and die. So I contemplated actually just blind buying the Blu-ray or paying $5 to watch the streaming, and I'm like, just like with Deer Camp 86 in the trailer, like it could go either way. Like the humor in this could be annoying, or it could be fun. I'm just so glad that I didn't blind buy the Blu-ray, because I won't be buying this Blu-ray anytime soon unless it's like $1 or less. But so I ended up just streaming it for $5. I did watch it twice. I generally kind of get my money, unless it's something horrible. Well, I mean, I guess this might be, I don't know if I call it horrible, but I generally watch, like 2 days in a row, something like this, that I get for a 48-hour streaming window just to get your money's worth. But I did want to see it a second time, just, I don't know why, I just did. And all I can say is I'm glad I didn't blind buy the Blu-ray. So the premise of this movie, just like with Deer Camp 86, I think this is very, very, very low budget. It might even be more low budget than Deer Camp 86. I actually had one of the cast members, he played the apparition, or the predator-esque creature in Deer Camp 86, comment on my review of Deer Camp 86. He said that movie cost $100,000. So I can only assume that this movie cost far less. But I will say, it's shot and cut with like a really kind of a know-how. It's really shot and cut relatively well, and it has some kind of funny half-ass visual effects and things, and kind of whatever. I mean, the whole point of this movie, I guess, is just to be kind of just a comedy or whatever. I would really, I was watching this, both times I watched this, I regard this as like if you took Wes Anderson and gave him steroids and, mixed a little Napoleon Dynamite in there and then mixed it with Shaun of the Dead in a blender or something, you might very well end up with this movie. And, like some of the humor is humorous, but I think by the time you get maybe, I don't know what, 15, 20, 30 minutes into the movie, it gets to be really taxing for someone who's pushing 50 like myself. Yeah, the humor at the end of the day was possibly, I mean, do what you want to do, the makers of this movie, and more power to you. But yeah, I felt it, it by the time you're done watching this, which is only like an hour and 13 minutes long or something, like you're pretty exhausted just because of the humor. Gets to be a little much, and honestly, like all the characters kind of, it just seems like they're the same character in just different bodies, more or less. And every character is kind of just has the same personality, which I guess kind of mirrors the youth of this generation, or this era we find ourselves in at the moment. But very simple premise, just there's basically, it's shown, I don't know if it's just one, I can assume it's more than one, because there's several red glowing eyes that can be seen at night in the woods in this movie. But basically I think we're just led to believe that deer drink from this polluted stream or polluted river, and they get basically, instead of mad cow disease turned into mad deer disease or whatever, just, rabid raging deer. But the deer themselves, I don't think, do anything in this movie. It's when the people, in this case the homies, they call themselves, the homies, which very well might be a group of bisexual fellows that go up into rent a very nice, by the way, the best thing about this movie is probably the A-frame cabin they film in and around, and the general area is really kind of cool. This is possibly filmed in Colorado. If it was filmed where they say where if it was filmed where they say that they are in the movie, then it was possibly filmed in Colorado, if memory serves. But the location in the A-frame cabin is great. But yeah, very possibly a group of bisexual male homies go out to rent this place and do some deer hunting, and dress up in masks and dance around and play. It's very much like a beta male kind of movie, so very possibly made by beta males, for beta males, featuring beta males, which may or may not all be bisexual. There's actually not one, kind of similar to Deer Camp 86. There was one woman in that movie, but there's absolutely no women. Not one woman in this movie, not one girl or woman, but they do mention a woman or a girl. I think one of the characters actually might lean towards actually being sexually attracted to women, which is quite the break in this movie. But yeah, so that's the premise. Is basically they hunt, and these goof-offs, which yeah, it is very much a beta male kind of a movie, and like it's interesting how movies reflect the era in which they were made or whatever, and this is one of the many reasons why I don't need to add this to the collection, is just replaying it in my mind, them being just these basically more or less bums going out here and putting on masks and having, whatever, Nerf dart gun fights and getting high and getting drunk, and they do shoot and kill a deer, and for some reason, like he's got the meat of the deer or whatever in the pan on the stove, and for some reason it never gets cooked or whatever. I don't know if he's just a bad chef or whatever. He just doesn't cook it long enough, but all of them except I think except two of them end up eating this basically raw deer meat, which is basically, mad deer disease, because the deer all drink from this polluted, stream or river or whatever, so they all end up being basically, one by one these quite possibly bisexual group of beta male homies turn into, just foaming at the mouth, drooling, red glowing-eyed zombies. And yeah, I'm not a big fan of. Oh, there's also a lot of like simulated whatever. I guess I can say vomiting, regurgitation. There's at least I want to say at the minimum 3 separate instances of simulated vomiting. Or AKA regurgitation, and I'm not a big vomiting regurgitation enthusiast. I don't like that in my movie. So when that started happening, along with all the drooling and foaming at the mouth stuff, I'm kind of like, yeah, I probably I can take the, I don't know what the beta male aspect of these characters, are just the stupid. I was the first maybe half of the movie I was on board and thinking I was going to buy the Blu-ray. I actually liked the opening scene, just with those two guys. I thought, instantly you can tell it was shot and cut with a flair that is very uncommon for a movie of its budget. I will say that, technically for what I can only assume its budget is relatively low, it is really, really well shot and cut for its, assumed budget or whatever. So I was planning on possibly getting the Blu-ray until like halfway into the movie, where it just became all this just vomiting / just foaming, drooling at the mouth and all this kind of stuff, and it's just like, okay, yeah, I don't need to watch this, I'm not going to want to watch this ever that often, and it's amazing that I actually watched it 2 nights in a row, but I did watch it 2 nights in a row. I pretty much go like this when there's something on the screen, just kind of like do the Nate cut and just kind of, put my hand when I know something's there and just like, go like that or whatever. But I probably don't really need to ever see this movie again. So that's basically the movie. It's go to the cabin, shoot a deer, eat it raw. This mad deer disease deer, eat it raw and turn into zombies, and the zombies that will attack and kill try to kill the people that the 2 guys that didn't eat the raw deer. So. Yeah, honestly, being a male who prefers, exclusively is attracted to women, like, seeing a movie like this come out in 2024, I mean, you can't be surprised when, a movie like this comes out where these characters are, as I say, possibly bisexual or, or something else. And, I don't necessarily, let's face it, I mean, I think I can speak for a lot of, guys who are exclusively attracted to women, that when we watch movies, we don't necessarily want to see guys waking up in bed together, or two guys going in for a kiss, or this kind of subtle or not so subtle in possible cases in this movie, just guy on guy attraction, or this kind of stuff. We generally don't want to see that kind of stuff, and we've got every bit of a right to not want to see that kind of stuff. And that's another reason why I probably will not be owning this movie or ever needing to really see it again. But I can't stress, before I end the review, I do want to stress that in my particular opinion, like it's uncommon that a movie of this budget is going to be like so technically savvy. And I will say it is relatively technically savvy, and I actually like the music too. Like the music score is relatively good, and like the trailer too is actually pretty kind of fun. And I don't know if these are big Wes Anderson fans that made this movie, but the trailer would kind of indicate so, and just the whole way the movie kind of feels would indicate so. And if that's the case, more power to him or whatever. It definitely has, like I say, it's Wes Anderson just kicked up. It's Wes Anderson on steroids. Like it's not as subtle as Wes Anderson or whatever, but yeah, they're definitely going, I can only assume they're definitely going for that kind of feel for this movie. So, incidentally, the production is solid. They got like a cameo with Lloyd Kaufman on there, which is just, take it or leave it or whatever, no big deal. I think you're going to want to watch all the way to the end credits. I think there's more Lloyd Kaufman nonsense after the end credits. And the end credits are like kind of, like I say, like Napoleon, reminds you of Napoleon Dynamite and, kinds of things. And, it's got this kind of a hip kind of feel to it or whatever. But, yeah, there's just certain aspects of it, which I've already covered, that don't make me want to really watch this anymore. And that's perfectly fine and within my rights to do so, or in that case not do so. My star rating for this movie, I think when it started was higher, but by the time it was over it's lower. I can only go as high as 1 3/4 stars out of 4 stars for a most atrocious thing. Yeah, incidentally, on IMDb the rating is really, really low, which is actually surprising, because you'd think more of the people that might be around the demographic age-wise of this movie would see this movie, and you think that they would be all in for like the kind of just the goofy-ass humor, and you'd think they'd identify with the beta male bisexual nature of the guys featured in this movie, but alas, the rating is relatively low. It's below 4 out of 10 on IMDb, I think. So it's surprisingly low on IMDb, the rating. So I guess my rating kind of reflects that or whatever. Maybe mine's a little higher or whatever. But I guess, we don't need to go on and on and on with this review. That'll be my thoughts and review for this movie, which, I was hopeful for, especially with the reduction in the Blu-ray price. It actually went down, I think, another $1 or $2 since then. But you'll have to take it down to like the $1. Maybe I'd buy it for $1. But one thing in closing to note, which is interesting, because even movies like certainly In a Violent Nature, but even Deer Camp 86 is like on the Blu-ray it's 5.1, and the sound on the Blu-ray of this is actually just 2-channel stereo, which would really indicate that the budget is probably a lot less than Deer Camp 86 in movies that are mixed in the 5.1. But I haven't heard the 5.1 of Deer Camp 86 yet, so I don't even know if it's any good or whatever. But it's just another indicator that usually in 2024, if a Blu-ray comes out of a movie, it's usually 5.1. So it's kind of interesting that it's just a 2-channel stereo or whatever. But yeah, I should have looked online to try to find out what the budget of this movie was. I might have to do that just for my own personal curiosity. But I guess that pretty much does it for this review. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks so very much for watching. And as always, we'll catch you on the next video.